Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I would love to introduce my wonderful panel of these lovely ladies who have joined together to share our thoughts on a particular topic and bring some enlightenment into each other's lives and into yours. So, joining me today is Susan Jarboe, Linda Baker, Dr. Kristine Pass, Karen Downey, and Reverend Linda. And I'm Kathy Cronin, and I will lead the topic. But before I do that, I want to take a moment for us to be able to get centered and to be in this present time and moment and to clear away any distractions you may have. So let's take the time, if it helps, to close your eyes, to shut out the world around you for just a while. Take a pause. And in that, take some deep breaths to release any tension, to clear your mind, to open your heart. And we call upon Spirit. We say, Dear God, we thank you for the wisdom and the guidance that enlightens us this day and each moment we have. We ask you to bless us with your abundance, with your goodness, with your love. We share this from our hearts. We share this within the means of sharing your thoughts, the divine presence that is in and around us and watches over us at all points and times. We thank you for the many blessings and for this opportunity to be joined together. Amen. So I'm basically an article from a Unity booklet. It's called The Spirit of Family. And this article was written by Reverend Bronte Colbert, who is he's the minister at the Unity Anthems Church in Georgia. And what he writes about are family lessons of love. And I will read to you his writings. It's pretty short to go through. Out walking my dog recently, I spotted a neighbor washing his car by hand. Intently focused, he cleaned each section with a soft cloth, a bucket of soapy water beside him in the driveway. In that moment, there stood my father. It doesn't matter that the two men look nothing alike or that my father passed on 9 years ago. I felt my dad's essence so clearly because he always washed his cars by hand. He instructed us kids to take care of the things we loved. My yard chore was to trim the hedges, shears heavy in my young arms. Father told me to step back often to gauge my work and make changes if needed. This shaped my inner artist to recognize symmetry, form, and composition. He taught me the names of all our local birds and how to whistle in tune with them. He taught me to recognize God in every part of nature. The scent of cookies cooling on a metal rack brings my mother, Ruth, clearly to me. Every December, my brothers and I mixed and baked peanut butter cookies as soon as she left the house for her annual Christmas shopping. That aroma mingles with the secret-keeping joy we felt by making cookies for her. She had the skill to act amazed and surprised every single year. One of the kindest people I've ever met, my mother smiled and said hello to strangers. She was compassionate and truth-centered and taught me to look in the good always. Her hugs were abundant. The kitchen table stayed open for late night talks when I was an angsty teen, and she encouraged my art. She helped me see God in all people. Long after her eyesight faded, Grandma Jo would sit and knit by the window of her single room, her German Bible close by hand. God was a fact to her, not a concept. For years, she filled our lives with colored yarn, turned into doilies, hats for Wisconsin winters, and mittens for sledding and skating. Then she took on bigger projects, afghans in vibrant blue, coral, and yellow to drape at the foot of our beds. Some days when I sat with her at the window, handing her bright balls of yarn, she would forget my name. With love, I would remind her. She told lively tales of her childhood in Austria and the 1905 ocean crossing that brought her, brave and alone at age 14, to New York and then Chicago. Then I would retell our stories, the ice cream shop we'd visit in her neighborhood, and my first Disney movie she took me to see when I was 8. Now, when I see sunsets blanketing the sky in coral, yellow, and blue, I see my grandmother. She showed me what faith and resilience are. Of course, families and relationships are not only hugs and acts of loving kindness. Feelings might get wounded, words may hurt, and negative actions or unkind treatment can linger in our minds and hearts. I was blessed to have these 3 people and others like them in my life. I've lived through challenging interactions too, times when I felt I wasn't being heard, valued, or understood, circumstances that seemed to block the positive progression of my life, relationships that felt extremely challenging and hurtful. Spiritually, we can approach life from a higher level. We get to choose what we think about and how we think about it. We can look into situations or relationships to discover what we learned. Are we stronger, wiser? What is the blessing? How have we grown? Finding new insights, we bless our lives and all the people in it. We move forward with confidence, faith, and strength. And I really appreciate his writing on this. In fact, as I read this article and he talked about his grandmother, there was such a parallel to my relationship with my grandmother. She came from Austria-Hungary in 1911 as a young mother with 2 small children. My mother was only 11 months old at the time they came to America to meet up with my grandfather, who had come earlier and had gotten a farm, and so they lived on the farm. And I can remember growing up that I would spend several weeks in the summer months when school was out with my grandmother. And she taught me how to garden, and she taught me how to bake. She taught me how to crochet. And it was just time that we would spend together. One of her biggest things was that on Sundays was the day of the Sabbath, and we weren't allowed to do any kind of work on Sunday. It was a time to just totally relax and be present. And she too had her German Bible that she kept there next to her, and that she read often. And that was the sense of her strength, of her courage to come take a ship crossing the ocean with 2 small children, that a 3-year-old and an 11-month-old, and just that faith that she had and that strength. My grandmother lived to be 94 years old, and the thing I can remember is that she never spent a day in the hospital until her last few moments, and she was always had the strength and the courage. And when her memory was gone, she pretty much lived back in her childhood years and her in the old country. She would talk about barely remembering who we were today as we visited with her. But what she brought was even then, she still had the strength. I can remember her sitting in her wheelchair and pushing herself and watching till someone walked out the door at the nursing home, and she'd sneak out the door behind them because she was going home. And I admired her, and to this day I see where my courage and my strength comes from. That my grandmother instilled into me of being this independent, strong-willed woman who who can make things happen and have that courage to go on. My grandfather passed away when I was very young, so I pretty much knew my grandmother as being a woman on her own. And she would walk several miles to the grocery store with her cart. She'd get her 50-pound bag of flour and her other groceries. She'd come home and she would bake and she would do things. She always had the family over on Christmas Eve as we grew, and she was always the person that was the solid rock of the family. And I can still recall those memories. So what I would like my panel to share is maybe the family lessons of love that you learned from a family member or somebody else. I can also recall that there was a school teacher when I was in high school who basically, she was my bookkeeping teacher, and she went to my parents one day. She came to visit us at her home, and I know she was an unmarried woman. I don't know if she was a widow, but she came to them and said, she needs to go to college. She has a lot of talent for numbers and math, and she needs to go to college and become an accountant. And because of her belief in me, I spent a 50-year career in accounting, which I love doing. And it was sort of like this teacher that barely knew me, but had this faith and planted a seed that allowed me to bloom and grow and create a profession out of it. So there may be others in your life that touched you outside of your family. So let's share those thoughts of those people, of those lessons of love that we were taught. And who would like to share first? Susan.
I really enjoyed the description of the grandmother. And what that whole story reminded me of was my own mother, who happened to be old enough to be my grandmother. I was one of those unexpected change of life babies. Uh, some little things first. You mentioned knitting hats for Wisconsin weather. And I lived in Wisconsin for about 10 years, and my mother knitted scarves. And I still have a couple of the scarves that she knitted for me. You mentioned Afghans. My mother loved to make Afghans, and I still have two Afghans that she made. Everybody in our family has an Afghan that she made, and so I was really amused to hear about that. Finally, there was a reference to sunsets, and I remember what my mother always said about sunsets in the Philippines. She said that the sunsets in the Philippines are the most beautiful in the world. And going to the Philippines to see a sunset is one of the things on my bucket list. Now, other ways, you asked what are sort of the things we learned or the lessons. Although we did not attend church, my mother was raised as a Christian Scientist, and then as an adult, she went into Unity. And I remember some of the things that she said. One of the first things that she would often say is, the twilight time, the sun has gone down, but it isn't dark yet. And she would always say, this is the time God walked in the garden. And I just loved that image. And I still think of that image. She also said that all the good you do comes back to you. She said, we draw some experiences to us. And the last thing that I really remember is she said, salute the Christ in everyone. In other words, when you're interacting with someone or engaging with someone, don't talk to the part of the person that isn't the Christ. And that is something I have always tried to remember. So thank you very much for enabling me to take this small trip down memory lane uh, to revisit a mother that I love very much.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate those thoughts and learning about your mother. So, who else would like to share? Dr. Kristine.
Thank you, Kathy. So, um, I was really taken with your quote that God was a fact for her, not a concept. What a beautiful, beautiful state of being. What I've learned as a lesson of family love is that families are created. It said we choose our family, but I think our families choose us. It oftentimes we feel like someone is going to be there forever. We meet them, we just love them, and we think, yeah, that's it, they're going to be in my life forever. And then the next year they're gone. Yet there are those other people who seem like they will definitely be temporary. You meet them, you're not even sure if you really like them to start with. And then they end up being the ones that stick around. They're the ones that are there forever. So it seems to me that family is that which forms in the divine. Oh, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Oh, and who else has some thoughts on family lessons of love?
Family lessons on love. You know, it's been really interesting. The lessons I learned from my first family, my family of origin, are so much different than the lessons I've learned from the family that I've raised. I definitely learned that family takes work. It's as important as you make it out to be, that you can walk away from your family and never see them again. And that's fine. That's the way a lot of families live. Or you can nurture and bind together the family ties that you have by being supportive, by being honest, by reaching out and making time for each other. And those ties can really support you through anything you go through. And I'm going through something right now, so before I get all weepy, I'm going to stop on that note, except to say I am very blessed to have an amazing family. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Reverend Linda. And you know that your family is always there with you, and so are we here to support you. So, Karen.
Yes. Thank you, Kathy, um, for that reading. It was really beautiful. And and so was your sharing on your relationship with your grandmother. Um, I was sitting thinking, boy, I can't relate to any of that. Um, I can't relate to any of that. I did have an aunt that was very special to me. But she was like my rescuer, rescuing me from my parents. So it's like I know she loved me and I could tell her anything. But the first family that I related to, and I will always call them my family, was the Al Anon family group that I found in, or they found me, in 78. And the first sponsor that I had within that group She will always be my mother, my friend, my listener. She was amazing. And where I learned most everything constructive was probably in Al-Anon over the years. And they do call Al-Anon the family group. And it was like I found my family. And they were with me through, two different near-death experiences that I had with my children. They were the ones that sat at the hospital with me. I mean, there's so many things that they were my family, period. And Marge, my sponsor, who's gone now, she was my mom. She taught me so much. She allowed me to cry. She walked with me through childhood and healing and the next steps that I took in my growth, which I remember back. Oh my God! Back then, I wanted to become a jazzercise instructor, and I had just such a big inferiority complex. She went with me to Denver to tryouts. She held my hand. She walked through the whole process with me. And I will always miss her. But I did find family in that first Al-Anon family group. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Karen and Linda. Share your thoughts.
Yes, I've been contemplating which stories to tell. I have so many family stories of love. I just have to figure out what I can share and what what I need to eliminate, or we'd be here for hours. It's a great subject, and my particular immediate family, it was just the four of us: my mom and dad, my brother, and I. And my folks, my dad was a mechanic, and my mother was a beautician. And when Christmas would come, it was you would think that we were part of the Rockefeller family if you looked under the tree and saw all the gifts. But they were mostly things that my dad would buy and he had to put together. Now he would work nights and he wouldn't get home from work until after midnight. And with Christmas morning being just a couple hours away, he would get in high gear and start putting together the toys and the bicycles and everything. And when my brother and I would get up the next morning, there it all was. The living room was just filled up with everything, and those were acts of love. What he did, he sat in the silence. He would get to bed for maybe an hour or so, and then we would wake up and the family would want to all be together when we opened presents. So as tired and as sleepy as he was, he got up and he just took so much joy in watching us open the presents or get on our bicycles and take off around the house. It was just year after year, it was like that. It was there was just so much love involved in the things that he did, and we would give it back to him. He his feelings of love. He was so happy if we would come home from school and mow the lawn for him. You know, it didn't take too much to please my pop. It in my life after that, as the years went on, my brother and I, we took off in opposite directions and had different lifestyles, and he went down to Georgia and I went west, and for 16 years we really didn't communicate, maybe a little bit over the phone now and then, but life was just different. And so not too terribly long ago, my brother, his health started to go down, and I knew it was time to go and see him and make amends, and we did that. I went down to Georgia and spent some time with him, and when he first saw me, he wasn't real sure who I was, and I said, "I'm your baby sister," and he goes, "Oh, my baby sister, that's my baby sister." And he was so excited to see me every time I would go in the nursing home. And he knew who I was too, and it was great. But over that period of time, we just were able to come back together as though we were never apart. There was a great exchange of love that went on between us. It was a spiritual journey. It was a miracle in my life, and it was the result of those that love and the family that brought us together. So that gets kind of heavy, but it gets into the core for me of what family love is all about. So thank you for bringing that up, and thank you all for listening.
Well, Linda, thank you for sharing about your family relationships and, the core of that love, that family can bring so much love. And also, people outside of family, like, Karen shared that her Al-Anon group was her family of, support. So love comes from many different directions. And I will call our panel back as we come into this. It's a time that we want to remind everybody that, we're here to love and support each other. And many of us, do not have our parents around anymore to be there, but you can find love in other ways, or you can take what you learned from those family members along the way, or from the people that have touched your life, and pass it forward, to share it forward. It's all about love is sharing and giving. And, so if there's somebody that touched your life and made a difference in your life, remember you can make a difference in someone else's life. And it's all about sharing that love. So I want to thank my panel. This was a very interesting topic of discussion. It was great to hear about the different relationships that have sort of supported us in our lifetimes, and know that we will always find love and support when we open our hearts to it. So with that, if you liked our topic, please, leave your comments, put a like button. If you're not a subscriber already, we'd love to have you join us, and please share this with others who maybe need to hear something about family love and loving support. We also want to invite you to join our panel. We're here to, open, and whether it's only for one time, you have a topic you want to share, just at the end of this video, there's a little clip on how you can reach out to the Unity Church of El Cajon that sponsors this video, and they will connect with Reverend Linda, and we'll be able to get you to be a part of our panel. So thank you, everyone, and I want to wish you a very glorious day, and may love surround you and enfold you, and may you be a blessing to others in a very loving way. And thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.